Hey everyone, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home, and in today's video I'm going to be breaking down the top 10 4K Blu-ray discs of 2021 so far. I'm making this video on August 1st of 2021, so usually I would do this around June, had a bunch of stuff going on with life, but also had a hard time, honestly, making a top 10 list until a few more titles came out in June and July. So now I finally got a top 10 list I feel good about for the first half of the year, and I'll run through going from 10 to 1, talk through each one quickly. All the individual reviews for each of these titles is available on my channel, so if you want to hear more about that, definitely go back and look for those. If you like 4K and Blu-ray content, 4K reviews, home theater, Blu-ray collecting, all that great stuff, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Tons of great videos coming here throughout the next few months, lots of great 4K reviews, and you'll help us try to hit our goal of 100,000 subscribers on the channel, so I appreciate that. And now let's jump right into this top 10 list. So starting at number 10 and working my way down, this is the kind of order as I see them, and like I said, tough list here, and you'll see some of my choices, but number 10 is a pretty recent release. It is A Quiet Place Part 2. I really liked this release. It has a great Dolby Atmos soundtrack. It has a nice 4K digital intermediate, plus outside of the 4K digitally shot, moments, it has a lot of 35mm shots in here too. So it's a very interesting visual mix. I thought the HDR was really good. The movie itself, sure, not as good as Part 1, but overall, it's still very well done, very well shot, and the opening 10 or 15 minutes of this movie were some of my favorite moments on 4K this year, so I had to give it some props. So it cracks the list here at number 10, but it is a pretty solid release. There's just a few that are obviously better. Now coming in at number 9, I've got Godzilla vs. Kong on 4K. This one is an HDR masterpiece. There's tons of great color, but it has what might be the best Dolby Atmos soundtrack of the year. So that obviously gives it some higher marks. The movie is a typical popcorn fest. If you like just turn your brain off type movies, non-stop action, you'll enjoy this movie. It's pretty decent technically. HDR was really the big benefit for me. The digitally shot image here and the CGI that was used, not as impressive from Blu-ray to 4K, but I had to crack the list here at number 9 because of that Atmos track. And if you've been following my channel for a while, honestly, you'll probably see I guess I'm a little bit skewed towards these older films, 35mm, 70mm, transfers versus digitally shot. But I'm trying to give some love to the digital ones out there. There's certainly some good ones. But so far this year, I think that older movies have dominated this list, as you'll see. So coming in at number 8, I took Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. This is from Universal. I have here the 4K Steelbook, which was really cool in my opinion. I'll give you a quick little look at the inside as well. But the disc itself, this was also a really nice transfer from Universal. I really, really liked the way this looked. It retained that original color scheme that Spike Lee was looking for, this really kind of warm color scheme that was removed on past Blu-rays. So I give it a huge thumbs up for that, for color correcting. HDR certainly helped them get that right. And it also has a very good DTS-X soundtrack. So overall, a great disc, really cool packaging, as you can see, a few different options. But it makes the list at number 8, and it was a 35mm upscaled, 4K transfer, so props to Universal and their restoration department on a very solid disc. So at number 7, I couldn't pick just one of these movies to put in the list, but I thought it deserved a spot on the list. It certainly has some really, really nice 4K transfers. Some I liked better than others, but I couldn't single out one movie. So at number 7, I'm putting the Indiana Jones 4K collection. This includes all of the original 3, plus Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which we don't really talk about, but it has all the movies. Honestly, I thought that the Last Crusade was maybe my favorite, then Raiders, then Temple of Doom, although as I've gone and rewatched them now, I've maybe adjusted that. I think Temple of Doom I didn't give enough props to at first in my review. I've seen it a few more times now. I've started to appreciate it more. So it's a very solid package from a visual audio perspective. And if you want the full review, definitely check it out on my channel. It's all there. I review the full set. But I put it in at number 7 because honestly the packaging I don't love. I thought this could have been a much more premium set. The steelbooks are okay. Here's a quick preview of one, but they're just in this cheap cardboard. So knocked some points off for that because packaging does matter when you're paying $100 for 4Ks. But they still have very good audio and visual elements, so they had to make the list, and I think number 7's a fair spot. So coming in at number 6, I've got Speed. This was the first Disney Fox catalog title to come out on 4K, but I really loved the visuals here. It's mainly here for the visuals because that remaster was impeccable in my opinion. It's by far the best this movie's ever looked. It really cleaned up the film elements, and they have an excellent 4K presentation. Now, this was actually done by the 20th Century Fox team, not by Disney. Check out more info on that in the full review of this disc on my channel, but that's just one interesting note because Disney will see what they do with more catalog titles like this. But I've always been impressed with what 20th Century Fox did, and Speed was a great disc. The only negative I give to it is the fact that it is lacking any sort of advanced audio, Atmos, DTS:X. It just has a DTS HD 5.1 master audio track, but the 4K and the HDR in this really improved the visuals, and I love this movie. It deserved this, and I'm glad that Disney finally got it off the shelf and actually put it on disc because it's been available for theatrical releases and digital for quite some time. Now, coming in at number 5, this was one of the discs that I was most looking forward to this year, and it's cracked the top 5 on the list of the year so far, so I would say by no means was it a disappointment. There's just 4 better discs in my opinion, but this one is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory on 4K. I loved the restoration work here for a couple reasons. First of all, the HDR added so much to this movie. Everything looked better when you're talking about the movie like this. Once they go into Wonka's factory and you got the purple coat and the candy colors, and so much better with HDR, but also a really sharp 4K visual. The other cool thing is that they actually corrected a mistake that had been made, or a choice that had been made on the Blu-ray. If you watch the Blu-ray, it's actually cropped a little bit wider, and some people thought that this release actually cropped down the visual and they actually did something wrong, but they didn't. That's the original aspect ratio you were supposed to see this movie in, so they corrected that. They gave us excellent 4K visuals, excellent HDR, and a great soundtrack. The reason this probably isn't higher on the list is because although that soundtrack is great, it's just DTS HD 5.1 again. So, I'm looking for the whole package here. Packaging, audio, visual, it all matters. And that's where Wonka ends up at number 5. But it's by far the best this movie's ever looked. And if you're a fan of Willy Wonka, it's an absolute must-have for your collection. Now, coming in at number 4, maybe not a movie that a ton of people, especially my age, know or even like or would want to watch, but it is by far one of the best examples of a film transfer coming to 4K, at least from the major studios, in the work that they can really do with excellent elements. So this is My Fair Lady at number 4. This was an 8K scan that they did from the 65mm negative, downscaled it to 4K. How many times have you heard that we've actually had to downscale the 4K instead of upscale to 4K? Usually it's the other way around, but they had to downscale it from a great 8K scan, added that HDR, put on a new completely lossless 7.1 Dolby True HD, so just short of Atmos, but it has what they call 96K resolution audio, which as far as I've read into is about as good as it can get on disc. So they really did some great stuff. Even though they don't go to Atmos, 7.1 is more than enough, and the visuals on this are incredible. The audio and the musical parts, awesome. The soundtrack sounds great, and it's one of the best restorations I've seen from Paramount in their catalog. So had to give them props for this one. It's a visual masterpiece. It's also a masterpiece of film. It won 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. So it's one of the greatest movies of all time by any measure, and it's easily one of the best of the year so far on 4K. Now, coming in at number 3 was a disc that, I didn't know what to expect from it, because the movie is sort of I wouldn't call it a B movie, but it's a lesser known movie. It has a big cast, but it was coming out from a studio that I knew did great work. And so I had to see what they did with it, and they didn't disappoint. At number 3, we've got the final countdown from Blue Underground. Blue Underground did excellent work. They cracked my top 10 list last year for best 4K discs with Zombie, but this is the finest example of their work that I've seen to date. This was a brand new 4K restoration, 16-bit color from the original 35mm camera negative, Dolby Vision HDR, and Dolby Atmos audio. An incredible picture, but great slipcover, tons of extras, commentaries, behind the scenes with producers, interviews with fighter squadrons, the original soundtrack CD, an overall excellent package, and just stunning 4K images. You would not believe that this came out from a boutique distributor like Blue Underground. They did such amazing work on this, and they deserve all the credit for it, which I said when I reviewed this on my channel the first time, this will easily crack the top 10 of the year, and it's coming in at number 3 so far, in my opinion, for 2021 as of August. So I think that's going to hold up. Now, coming in at number 2, as good as My Fair Lady was, Paramount actually one-upped themselves with this release, and it is The 10 Commandments. This movie is an epic, super long, some of the most amazing set elements, anything you can imagine from the 60s. Like, this movie had a huge budget, it was a massive production, had a big time cast, and this 4K here with Dolby Vision HDR just looks incredible. I mean, it's for a movie of this age, it looks as good as it probably can ever look, unless we get an 8K disc, because it's another example of a very high resolution scan that actually came down for the 4K disc. So Paramount had a couple of bangers this year on 4K, and 10 Commandments was one of them. Now, it's not going to be for everybody. The movie is slow. It's an older movie. It has some kind of goofy moments, obviously, with special effects, visual effects. Things like that aren't the best. But honestly, if somebody showed this to me and I didn't know any better, just looking at the visuals, I mean, it looks like it was shot within the last 20 years, and it's, 70 years old. So an excellent restoration, more great work by the folks at Paramount Pictures, who have quite a few titles on this list. So props to them, and thanks to them for keeping the studio catalog coming out on 4K. That's super important. You need to see not just the new stuff, but the old stuff get restored, and that's why so many of these older movies make my list. The upgrade is incredible, and 10 Commandments is an absolute beauty if you get a chance to check it out. So those last 3, honestly, between My Fair Lady, 10 Commandments, Final Countdown, any of those you could probably mix and match in the top 4 spot, and I wouldn't argue with you, right? It's a very solid group of discs. But there was one disc this year that I gave a great review for, and then I went back and actually watched it a couple more times and talked with some more people about it and kind of viewed it again because I was curious. And after viewing it a few times, it's the finest example that I've seen of film transfer to 4K digital. The detail, so sharp, colors, amazing. Plus, it came with great packaging. It comes with great audio, all the original elements you'd want. And if you haven't guessed by now, that movie is Django from Arrow Video. So Arrow Video right now holds the top spot in my eyes for 4K discs. So props to them. Props to Blue Underground for coming in the top 3. Honestly, these boutique distributors are knocking it out of the park with 4K in a way that the major studios can't. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more major studios like export their stuff over to these guys and license it out to Arrow, the new Criterion 4Ks that are coming, Blue Underground, Shout Factory, Kino Lorber. These guys are going to keep 4K alive, and they do such a great job. So Django, this is a brand new Dolby Vision HDR presentation, brand new 4K scan, comes with the uncompressed mono audio, which is great, the original English and Italian soundtracks, English subtitles. We've got, let me see, there's also a 1080p Blu-ray disc of Texas Adios, which was another movie by Sergio Leone. it's loaded with extras. I could go through all of it, but disc 1 has the 4K, and then disc 2 has Texas Adios, and they both have tons of features. It comes with this awesome booklet. It has really cool packaging. It has a poster in here. I mean, you name it, they go over the top, as you know, with Arrow. But it's such a great example of how good film can look. You can't, in my eyes, you can't ever tell me that this doesn't look better than A Quiet Place Part 2, or Love and Monsters, which has a cool 4K presentation. 2K upscale though. Even something like Joker or Gemini Man, like those look amazing, don't get me wrong, but I'm always going to be more excited by this because this takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. It's a real team effort to put in a restoration like this, and it takes hours and hours and hours. You can't just shoot something in 4K and then put out this great 4K disc. That's wonderful, great. Modern cinematography is amazing, but you're never going to convince me that these aren't more impressive 4K discs. And honestly, that's why the top half of my list here is very weighted towards those. But I think it's, when I review stuff, think how I review things. It's not about how great this 4K disc is. It's about how great is this 4K disc compared to your Blu-ray or DVD that you're used to. Because most of us are upgrading or are asking, do we need to upgrade from a digital collection to 4K disc? Do I need to upgrade from my Blu-ray or DVD to 4K disc? And so I try to look at it in that lens, and that's why something like A Quiet Place Part 2, which looks awesome, just is going to be at number 10, and this is going to sit at number 1 with Final Countdown, 10 Commandments, My Fair Lady, because they're just more impressive all around. They're much larger upgrades over the Blu-ray discs that were out there previously, and that's where I give the highest marks personally on my channel. So that is it for the top 10 list so far. I did wait an extra month because I wanted to get a few more of these in, get some more reviews in as well, but I'm really looking forward to what's coming out for the end of the year, because right now the boutique guys are killing it. The Arrows, the Blue Undergrounds, they are really taking hold of 4K. We'll be interested to see if maybe a Criterion disc comes out. Kino has a bunch more 4K catalog titles coming out. I know Shout Factory has some stuff like The Thing, the Halloween movies coming. So there's tons of stuff coming in these last few months. And I think with COVID at the beginning of the year, production was slowed down. There were a lot of delays. So I think the back half of 2021 is going to be overloaded with 4K. So get your wallet ready. Start saving now. But I'll revise this list in December. We'll take a look, see how many of these actually make it to the top 10 at the end of the year, see if I shuffle anything around. But right now, that Django Blu-ray 4K, just it can't be beat. It's so good. So if you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend it. I will leave links to all of these down in the description. If you purchase through those links, that helps support my channel, so I appreciate it. And also make sure you search for these on my channel if you want to watch individual reviews. I have an individual review for each of these on the channel, so definitely go find those if you want some more in-depth than the quick synopsises I gave here. So yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Follow me on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all great places to get in touch with me. And make sure you have your notifications on so you know when I post new community posts with deals, I post new videos, I update you on awesome things happening in the physical media world. I try to keep everyone up to date. If your notifications are on, then you'll be the most up to date of everybody. So really appreciate you all watching. Had a lot of fun making this video, revisiting some of these discs. It was a lot of fun to see them again. Some great discs here, so you can't really go wrong with any of these. I highly recommend them all. But that's it. So thank you for watching. Hope you guys stay safe and healthy out there, and I'll talk to you soon.